social media is driven by AI, and it's become increasingly driven by AI. So when we talk about an algorithm, when we talk about news feeds, it's all AI.
If recruiting is going to survive, you're going to have to think less about just supplying people, but supplying resources, or at least having an awareness that they might not need that logo designer anymore or that head of communications anymore. So that's not a role I'm going to recruit for, because AI has taken over that job.
Doing a lot of texting now and building relationships. I mean, it's building relationships at the end of the day. And it's one of the best relationships that I have that are outside of business. It's consistent communication where there's some sort of value going back and forth.
When you're sending an outreach message, how do you send that message super sharp and connects with people? You have to understand them. And if you understand them, then you can connect. And that's why our company's called EQ, because we believe that intuition, emotional intelligence, and understanding is actually the most important human skill.
Joel Lalgee and Marcus Sawyerr welcome you to AI in Recruiting, the show where they break down how AI is transforming hiring, leadership, and the future of work. Expect real talk, smart tools, and bold conversations with the people shaping what's next. Let's get into it.
All right, we'll let everybody get into the session. Good afternoon, guys. If you're on the West or on the East Coast, good morning. If you're on the West Coast, you guys are in for a treat. Just to make sure that the chat is working, if you want to network with other recruiters that are excited about growing, drop your LinkedIn profile over in the chat. All right, cool. Amy, you are ready to rock and roll. So I am actually super excited about this. I'm going to make the introduction short. I know most of you guys probably know Marcus. Most of you guys probably know Joel. They are some of the most forward people out there on LinkedIn when it comes to talking about artificial intelligence, talking about the changes, talking about agents and all that stuff. They also have a podcast that you guys need to make sure that you are plugging into. And what's happening today is they're actually doing a live episode of the podcast. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip it over to Marcus and Joel. Floor is yours, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Marcus, good to be live with you. Welcome, everybody. We, like Ben said, we've run this podcast. We actually used to run it through a LinkedIn audio session, but we've been running this podcast for about, 2 years now?
Yeah, it's been a while. It has been a while. So yeah, last couple of years, lots of guests, lots of conversations, and it's nice to be back live and interactive.
Yeah, so we welcome everybody. I see Amy is in there. I see Sam. If you can, get in the chat, drop your LinkedIn. We'd love to know who's just out there in general. And then as we're going through, the nice thing with the live podcast is we do want to make it interactive. So if you've got questions, if you've got comments, gives us the opportunity to be able to address questions, just get involved and kind of make this interactive. But for any of you guys who don't know us, probably be best to just to start with a quick introduction. So obviously this is the AI in Recruiting show live edition. I'm one of the hosts, Joel Lalgee. We got our co-host Marcus here. So Marcus, why don't you introduce yourself? Give us just a quick intro on your background.
Yeah, sure. So I've spent the last 18 years in HR tech and recruiting. I actually started on the sales side in the job board space, and then became the global president of digital innovation for the Adecco group, where I was responsible for buying, building, and investing in HR technology companies across the world. And in the last 4.5 years, so I started to look at AI in 2013 with a company we bought, Text Kernel, with Career Build. And then in 2018, I made some predictions around the future of AI. So in the last 4 years, I've been building out a community, which is EQ community, that is powered by AI. We started out as a permanent placement recruitment business, so been in the recruiting space as well. But a lot of my friends who ran staffing and recruiting firms wanted a product that could help them become more effective. So we started to build out AI solutions for them instead of specific products that do two things. One is to find your ideal client profiles, and the other is to find the ideal candidate profiles. And I think for today's session, we're going to focus on clients, and we're going to spend some time talking about how you win clients in the recruiting space. Now, if you're in TA as well, that we can also talk a little bit about stakeholder management. So do put in the chat whether you're in-house or you are an agency recruiter, and that will allow us to tailor our live session today. And Joel, why don't you give an introduction? I always like to talk about the millions upon billions of views that you've got on your social media sites across many different platforms. But why don't you talk a little bit about how you got there and what you've been doing?
Yeah, happy to. So good to see all you guys as well. Good to see all these LinkedIn profiles. I see Lauren's dropped hers, Gavin, Matthew. Good to see you guys. So yeah, I've been in the recruiting space for about a decade, all on the agency side. And over the last 5 years, kind of fluctuated between roles. So I've spent time coaching recruiters. I know one of the old companies I used to work with, I think they presented today, coaching recruiters on how to build their brand, how to do social selling, and then spent a period of time recruiting recruiters for in-house teams. And then recently, the past few years, been focused on executive recruitment and recruiting executives that are in HR and talent acquisition. So that's what I've been doing on the recruiting side. And then, as Marcus mentioned, I built a massive following on social media, and we're going to talk about this, but obviously social media, just so we're completely clear, social media is driven by AI, and it's become increasingly driven by AI. So when we talk about an algorithm, when we talk about news feeds, it's all AI. The AI is figuring out what the content is and who to get the content to. And so I spent the last 5 years trying to understand how to get distribution on social media, how to get that top of funnel activity. And so to date, I think I'm up to 900 something thousand followers across platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then video views. We're close to 1 billion video views. So Marcus and we connected, I think about 3 years ago at another conference. We actually were on a panel together, didn't know each other. We connected and we just felt there was a lot of synergy there in terms of Marcus with the community and AI building and building these tools and services, and then me on the social media. So today we're going to talk about sales in the age of AI.
So we've got a lot of folks. I'm looking at the chat now. We've got Lauren, who's an agency, Lauren Hasser. We've got another Lauren who's in-house. We've got Gavin, who's an agency. Matthew is an agency. Giovanna, an agency. We've got Lindsay managing an in-house team. We've got Lena, an agency. Amy, solo independent recruiter. Agency solo practitioners as well, with Richard and Kelly. So we've got a decent mix. It seems like it's pretty heavy on the agency side. So I think that part of the conversation, as well as us talking about business development, we can also talk about the stakeholder management as well, because I think not only getting business is important, but how you manage your stakeholders and set expectations as well. For those that are in-house and those that are agency, when we talk about business development, feel free to just put in the chat some of the things that you would like to discuss when it comes to AI, and also some of the things that you've found to be super challenging. So what's quite not working with AI, right? I'll throw this out there. One of the things that I've seen and is email, right? And it's a little bit of a kind of paradoxical statement, because email can work, but I think we're being bombarded with emails. And then also, as Joel had mentioned at the start as well, social media is an AI algorithm, right? And we've seen the evolution of social media going from, hey, we're going to connect you with people that you know in your network, so your friends, people that you met at conference, to interest-based social media. So how do we tackle that algorithm as well? But please put in the chat. We want to make this as interactive as possible. Want to use the chance that we're live, but the idea is that you leave here with something that's valuable that you can implement in your business. And as Joel said, we're both running a community. I'll put the community in the chat as well, and we've got a bunch of subscribers that we're communicating with on a consistent basis, specifically around AI and recruiting.
Yeah, and I just dropped the regular kind of podcast link to the link to the community in the chat. I just dropped that in there, so feel free to check that out. And I think we just did a search pre this show. We put sales into the content. I think you got 20 podcast mentions of sales as well. So a lot of content there. But why don't we start with this top of funnel awareness? I know we just mentioned it with social media. Why don't we start with that? Because I know Ben even mentioned before we jumped on, like, I'm obviously doing social media stuff. You're doing social media stuff. So I'd be curious to get your perspective on, like what are you seeing work right now? I mean, you mentioned the interest-based algorithm. Like, talk to me more about that. Like, I want to kind of dive into that.
Yeah, so I always like to frame things in like the past, present, and the future.
Yeah.
So what was social media before? What do we know social media to be? And when it initially started, who remembers, and you can put a note in the chat as well if you remember this. Who remembers when you first ever signed up to LinkedIn? If you remember when you first ever signed up to LinkedIn, MySpace and chat rooms, right? Sam, absolutely. That was
AOL.
yeah, exactly. AOL dial up, right? But when you first ever signed up to LinkedIn, if you remember rightly, there was an option for you to upload your contacts. Okay. So, and that was also on Facebook and all of these different places. And so it made it really easy for you to upload your contacts, really hard for you to download them now, right? You got to wait like a week for them to send you an email. But they uploaded the contacts, and the idea was that you would connect with people that you knew. That was how social media started. And then people would be following you based on people that you knew first and second degree connections. Remember that, Joel?
I do remember that. And Kelly just asked, she said, can you not do that anymore? You can definitely do that still. You can I mean, they're constantly prompting you to.
Well, I want to be specific. When you first set up your social media account, there's only one and done. Like the day one, when you go in,
yeah,
what was the expectation?
Yeah, they want you to upload all this.
Yeah, and then as smartphones started to come out, so I'm gonna get like a real historian this because I was one of the first on LinkedIn when smartphones started to come out. Then you could see that was attached to the email provider that you had on your phone, right? This is like when you were people were switching from BlackBerry to iPhone, right?
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you
yeah.
could say, okay, you could pick the contacts that you wanted to interact with. So that's how it started.
Yeah,
it's very different now, but it was people that you knew. Fair to say?
Yeah, it was a social network.
It was a social network, and then if you'd go out and you'd meet someone at a conference or you meet someone at an event, you might add me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't that you were getting people online only to add you because you weren't online that much. You were either on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and you'd keep Facebook separate from LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
And then Instagram came out. So is that fair to say, Joel?
It's fair to say.
Okay.
100%.
So that was the past. So how did you get meetings? It was actually a really, really high signal, low noise channel because not everybody was doing it.
Yeah.
So think about that. And that's the thing about AI. When everybody's doing it, going left, you want to go right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're getting bombarded. Crackberry, yeah. Ben, we're getting bombarded with emails. Like, do you get a lot of emails at the moment, kind of top of funnel stuff, Joel?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you put business owner or founder or CEO or any title that shows any sort of decision making on LinkedIn, you get a floodgate of emails, right? You get emails and you get DMs as well, to be fair.
So I think it would also be good for anyone who's put in the chat. Loads of people are popping off in the chat, which is amazing. But also put the level that you're at, right? Like, are you an individual recruiter or would you consider yourself a leader? Because the status kind of makes a difference in terms of maybe the engagement and how you can interact. But that was historically.
Yeah.
Then we fast forward, long time, right? 15, 16 years or whatever. Fast forward. Now it's really, really easy to email somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, because it becomes really, really easy, you get more emails. That channel is noisy.
Yeah.
Okay. It's really direct mail. I'm going to go way back. Used to be noisy. Loads of letters that you'd receive. Less noisy now. Not super scalable. So how can AI help in the age of this kind of noisy channel situation? And I think it comes down to, and I was thinking about it earlier, it really comes down to the data that you have. So the quality of the information. And then you want to think about how what you're offering the people that you're connecting with.
Yeah.
I heard a stat recently that they said like 44% of emails are disregarded when they have the title or the words meeting in there. Because you're trying to take something from someone. You want someone's time. But all of this is about, and I think you can talk a bit more about, and I'll stop kind of like banding on a, but look, listen, I used to make 120 phone calls a day, and I said to myself, I'd never wanted to do that again. So the whole thing was, how do you get inbound, right? And that's why we build up the subscriptions, we build up the community, and we build up subscribers. But it's really about, what are you giving people?
Yeah.
So maybe, Joel, on the top of the funnel, when you're creating content,
yeah,
how are you thinking? What's your mindset as you create content online in terms of the value that you're trying to deliver to your audience? How do you think about it?
I think about it in the same way that you were alluding to with email. Like, what am I delivering to the audience, and what are they interested in? And so it's really understanding, in even just breaking down the audience, right? If we're talking about sales, your prospect. So who is that ideal prospect, and what do they care about? What are they interested in? That's the content that I'm going to create. So, and it's the same with an email. What is someone going to be interested in? What is going to make them click? What are they not going to be interested in? You know, and usually they're not going to be interested in you taking something from them. So I'm always thinking about, what am I giving? What's the value? What are they interested in? And you mentioned it earlier. It went from, now when you look on Instagram, you look on TikTok, you look, and even in LinkedIn's video feed, right? If you guys have noticed the video feed that they're pushing, all of the social media algorithms are going from who you know and what are the people you know saying, to what do you care about and how can we give you more of that so we can drive more ad revenue. So you just want to think, that's interest in, like, what are people that you're selling to interested in? How can I fill that void?
Yeah, and it's like,
and someone just said LinkedIn Reels is a different type of annoying, which, you know, I think I've polled my network several times on that, and that is the sentiment with the video, but the overall algorithm is still shifting that way.
Well, and I've talked to you about this a lot, if everything's going one way, I'll go another way.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be subject to the algorithm. So the question is, what can you do about it?
Yeah.
And so we talk about, so social media's evolved. Everyone's clear on that. The other thing that's evolving is, how do people find information?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wrote an article in the newsletter around this, the AI and recruiting newsletter, which Joel's put in. Discovery is changing. I was at an airport a few weeks ago, and I've been debating getting these specific headphones. By the way, and this is, I'm actually said I'm going to do this. I bought three different AirPods. Three. No, Joel, three. None of them work. I went to the Apple store. I took in my 3 AirPods. And I said, these don't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. And I said I was going to put them on blast. So this is like my little rant. My wife's like, she goes like, don't do it. Don't tell everyone. Went into the Apple store, and I said to them, I bought 3 sets of AirPods. They're not working. He said, yeah, we'll check it out. Came back. Yep, you're right. They're not working. We're going to charge you $100 for these ones, $200 for these ones, $100. I said, I've just spent $250 on each of them. Can't you do anything? I'm rolling with these now, right? These old school wires. Okay.
The best.
Yeah, old school wires are the best. What's this got to do with anything? Discovery. Instead of me going on Google to find headphones or Amazon, I went on to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And in my feed, there was all the different headphones that you could get. And there was a comparison, and there was a link to Best Buy. So my behavior is evolving and changing and shifting. And it shifted with mobile. So if we think of social media, it shifts with mobile. LinkedIn, you mentioned the video and the reels. It's shifting. Who remember YouTube with buffer? And you say buffering, and it would take forever, right? All of those shifts are starting to happen. So thinking about, how can you involve yourself in those shifts before they take place?
Yeah.
And again, you don't want to be where everybody is. So talking about the top of the funnel, for me, what's been the most fruitful for us has been building a community. Okay. And so it's looking at your contacts, looking at your groups, and then how can you have them in environments that you can control, and they're private environments. So with our AI, where we've been spending time, we've been helping companies get ICPs, their ideal client profiles or ideal candidate profiles. We've been using that data and information, precision data and information, to help arrange events, to help organize dinners, to help to congregate people, to help to build a community. So I always think about the sales piece as not a one and done. It's never transactional. it's a long tail. How many touch points did you tell me? It was like 7 touch points until somebody like really kind of recognizes your brand and knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's higher than that now, but yeah, it's that's what it's been.
But the attention span of an individual is much lower online than it has been, because you're scrolling. Now, if you can get someone in person or in an event like this, where hopefully we have some level of attention, they're engaged. So how do you create more environments to get your clients and your candidates engaged with what you're doing? And that's how I really think about building a brand to network, because that's what you want to do. You want to build a network that's going to then help you sell and sells for you.
And you know, with the community, I know Gavin said, are people still building communities? It feels very 2021. And I remember there was that time period where
I got to jump in on that. Are people still selling? That feels like 1962. Of course. Yeah.
Well, but I remember that the whole, because just for you guys, how long have you been actually building like communities that people?
We started in 2021, right? And I think that's part of the challenge. None of this stuff, there's no silver bullets. There's plenty of lead ones. Yeah. So it's about the longevity and building trust.
He said 2021, you see?
Yeah, exactly. He's right. Gavin's right. But that's when you start. Yeah. So do you do it in 2021 and then give up the next day, Gavin?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, for me, I think that you have to have longevity. So maybe I was too long at Adecco and Career Builder. I was there for 10 years at Career Builder. I was way too long. And then at Adecco, 5 years. Been running a business 5 years. It takes time.
Yeah.
So how do you build that trust and that brand? We've got 40,000 subscribers in our newsletter. It didn't happen overnight. But I think as recruiters or salespeople, it's sometimes very transactional. But remember that your customers, your candidates can be your clients. Your clients can be your candidates, especially in executive search.
100%. Yeah. One of the things that you said too was, when everyone's doing one thing, you need to be doing something else, right? And obviously you're working with a lot of clients and helping them build communities. You're helping them, work with AI to build different agents that can do different tasks. Like, you're doing a lot when it comes to AI. So how are you helping people to be different with what they're doing? And like, how do you get that perspective? So you look around and go, okay, everybody's moving this way. Now I'm going to move this way. Like, how do you do that with sales in the age of AI? Well, everyone's just cold blasting people with AI messages. How are you thinking about it?
Yeah. So one of the things that I underestimated was the importance of the long tail. So the importance of being really, really specific. And I remember in recruiting where we had all these specialist brands across Adecco, and they done amazingly well, because they were super specialist. One specifically for legal, one specifically for aerospace and engineering. And when you had a specific offer to a particular audience at a particular point in time, it was super valuable. So we help the customers do 3 things, should I say. We find relevance. So who are the people that you're connecting with? Are they relevant to your offer? Are you relevant to their offer? Interested people. Are they actually interested in connecting with what you've got at that point in time? And verified, are they who they say they are? Once you have that information, that data, and they're relevant, interested, verified, we call that RIV. Then you can think about what your offer is that you want to present to them, and then the channels. So you want to go to the channels where there's the least noise, right? If there's loads of people in one space that are your competitors, or there are loads of people that are in one space that make this environment feel less valuable, you want to think about how you can become a host and create an environment for yourself. So we've been working with a lot of hosts, building out, using AI to go out and build out the data, turn that data into information, the information into insights, and insights into knowledge. So with a high chance of what the propensity of people be interested in what you're selling. I mean, typically, we were getting, with candidates, we get 40 to 50% open rates on anything that we send out. With clients or customers, it's usually 20, 30% on open rates. And that then gets to a certain amount of views. So our content's getting viewed over 100,000 times, currently a month, in certain areas. And then within that, how do you then build that funnel? So it's about understanding the top of the funnel, awareness, what you're doing on the awareness side. Then the second part of that funnel, what's the offer to engage someone. The
Yeah.
third part, and only third or fourth, is when you're starting to sell, right? And it's a process, and you keep building up that pipeline.
No, 100%. So I'm looking at some of these.
Recruiters are legit stalkers. I love that.
So Heather said, I actually would have to go up on it, but she said something about thinking about taking up like pickleball, right? Which is, yeah, obviously that's trending right now, and a lot of people doing that. But it's in the whole idea of, hey, I'm going to go play golf, right? To go pick up clients. But I think there's some truth into that, and how we even just think about. That's how well you need to know you need to know what your clients are interested to. So I've coached people before. It's not like on social media. I think a lot of people go to what's going viral, how am I getting reactions? When you're trying to get sales, it's less to do with the reactions, and it's literally more to do with how well do you know that ICP, using that data which you've collected. How well do you know what their needs are going to be in that current time, and putting out the content that's going to be valuable for them, so they just start to see you as someone that can solve their problem.
There's that, but really it's about trust and timing.
Yeah.
So do you trust that person, and have they hit them at the right time? If you trust someone, if I'm selling fish, right, and you trust my fish,
yeah,
then you will decide, okay, look, I'm going to connect you. You might not want fish today, but if you know someone else, so that's the other big thing, is trust, timing, and referrals.
Yeah.
What we really do is help companies build their own referral engine.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm trying to stay ahead with the chat, but the trust.
It's hard.
I'm like, look at trust is quickest built when meetings in person to help. Signing up for pickleball now. You better be good. But look, trust is met when 2 or 3 or multiple parties agree on something.
Yeah.
And so what are the characteristics of trust? Reliability.
Yeah.
Do they do what they say? Best recruiters I know do what they say they're going to do. They follow up when they say they're going to follow up. They're reliable. They're responsive. So I think it's about how you build.
No, you told me this. You told me this. It's not follow up. It's follow through.
Yeah.
Follow through. And I think that's a huge piece, right? Because it's like following up. Following up is just literally maybe it's sending another message, or it's touching base, but follow through. That's what it's all about. So talk to us about that, because I've been following through with more people. I've got calendar invites now to myself that say, instead of say follow up with this person, follow through. So what's the difference, and like how do you think about that? Because I actually think this is crucial in sales.
Yeah, look, it's more of a mindset. If you follow up, you believe somebody that is above you. If you're following through, you're making sure that you get it. Okay, so it's less about rejection, and it's more about your offer and your motive to connect with them. So if I go back to like trust and timing, the best candidate that you're going to get, typically, not always, but definitely client, comes from a referral. And so even though we're selling AI solutions, what we really do is we help people generate referrals at scale, and understanding their ICP, the ones that do well. And I go back to what I was talking about with the niche brands. If you've got a very specific niche offer, like I'm working with someone at the moment. I spoke to a few different people. One's like in kind of the seafood industry, really, really specific and niche.
Sounds fishy.
Sounds a little bit fishy. That's why I mentioned fish, I think.
I think so.
But they do recruiting just in the seafood industry.
Wow.
Really specific. So you know who those people, so you understand your ICP. And so if you've got a client, and this is the other thing I think about in terms of like selling, in terms of things that work well. If you've got a client that things have worked well before, and I've been subject to this where I haven't done this so well, but I used to do it really, really well when I was in sales. And when you get in business leader, you kind of, that might be good. Something's working well, triple down on it. So if you know you've got a certain client profile, whether for us it's like creating events, dinners, that type of stuff, and helping people find chief medical officers in a specific location because they can sell to them or they can hire them. Yeah. And there's an event and there's something interesting for them in that particular space. If you know what that thing is and why your offer is compelling, double down on it.
Yeah.
Then once you double down on it, always ask for referrals. Old school or current school will know about CV stripping or resume stripping. You strip out a resume, when you see that resume, you figure out all the companies that person worked for. When you understand all the companies that they work for, you understand who all their bosses were. So the other thing that we're doing is we're not only helping people find executives, but the hiring managers that are hiring for those specific positions. So we can infer that with AI. So real specific on AI comes from identifying the right ICP.
Yeah.
Then once you identify the ICP, make sure you've got enough insights. So when you've got those insights, you can find who the right hiring manager is. And then crafting a compelling reason why they should spend time with you. That's like that's up top of the once you've built that community. And it could be because you know someone who knows someone.
Yeah.
It could be because you're in a very specific niche. It could be because, like Heather says, you want to play pickleball. Right?
Yeah.
Depends on what you want to do. How are you following up?
I'm following through. I think
Following through.
Yeah, I think with the follow through, it's doing at the very basic. It's just doing what you say you're gonna do, which sounds so basic, but I can't tell you how many times. Like I just got a message from someone who is trying to get a hold of a company, and they're trying to buy the service from this company, and the sales team isn't following up. So they actually followed up with me, and they said, "Hey, I see that you kind of work with this company based on your profile. Can you help me get a hold of their sales team? Because we're trying to buy their product," and then not responding. So I think about things like that and how basic that is. Like the sales team has an interested prospect that wants to buy what they're selling, and they're reaching out to me, a third party, to help them with that. So I think in recruitment, it's if you say that you're going to send through salary benchmark data for one of your clients, if you say that you're going to show up to an event, if you say that you're going to introduce somebody to somebody that's going to be of value, you do it. And I just think that it's so basic, but that's how you create trust, by following through with what you said you were going to do.
Yep.
And then I think the second big thing is when it comes to like the person, having that context, like you said, and crafting those personal messages. I personally think that it's okay to use AI to craft some of that, but also, be really thoughtful with how you do that. Because one big mistake I am seeing right now, I'm on the receiving end, I'm sure all of us are on the receiving end, is because it's so easy to be personal, it can kind of come off insincere. It can people can tell now.
Sure.
Okay, this is more of a spam personalization, right? So it's still crafting and being intentional with that.
Well, that information used to be really hard to get access to.
Yeah. At scale.
At scale. Now, so there's a lot of information, but there's not many insights. So yes, I know this about you. I know you live in this location and you do that, but what does that mean to me and my offer?
Yeah.
Does that mean, okay, so I'll give an example. We created a document which I can share with people and called the Great Restructuring. And I'll share this in here. And it talks a lot about the work that we've been doing within AI, but it talks about the changes in the recruiting industry at large. Now, that document had allowed us to connect with a lot of our current customers. And it had also allowed us to basically create an environment where we've got something where people can go to. So we started to create these for customers as well. So if you're in a recruiting industry, what is really going on in your niche? What's going on in your area and sector that the leaders care about? And I think in the age of AI, to your point, it's so easy to create a plan, or so easy to create a document, but do you really understand that? Yeah. And then are you shifting from being a vendor, transaction, boom, 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 to a strategic provider? Because at some point, if recruiting is going to survive, you're going to have to think less about just supplying people, but supplying resources, or at least having an awareness that, hey, they might not need that logo designer anymore, or that head of communications anymore. So that's not a role I'm going to recruit for because AI has taken over that job. But they might need a creative director, someone to control this. So it's really about having an understanding. So the depth of knowledge that you understand your area of expertise and your niche is super, super important. And then conveying that to your client. Every time you send a message to someone, they feel like they got value. That's how you want to leave someone feeling, you know what? That was pretty, I'll take Joel's call because every time I speak to him, I learn something.
That's why people take my calls. Okay, so one of the interesting things someone mentioned, which I wanna touch upon, is this in-person thing, right? Because obviously I'm sure throughout a lot of sessions we've been talking about tools, and I think tools can be great, right? Like a hammer is a great tool, but in this day and age, and we're talking about sales in the age of AI. Talk to me about like this genuine like in-person connections. Like you mentioned it with the conferences. Talk to me about how you're using conferences and like actually meeting with people in this age of AI as well. Like how, because I feel like sales, it's kind of going back to that in some ways. Like I'm hearing a lot more about making those genuine connections, right? As opposed
Yeah.
to just everything being like an online transaction, like you were talking about.
So the initial name of EQ is EQ Community. We evolved into EQ.app because we're building AI applications. But we're also bringing the community back a lot. And the reason is when you meet someone in person, somebody said this the other day, depends on how they do how this feels, but robots are not going to take away the way that people smell. Some people smell bad, some people smell good, right? But like that's just like a human thing.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a scent, right? There's like and like you sense the business, you feel the business. So there's some emotional connection that you get when you tie to someone and you see them, you look them in the eye, you shake their hand, you have a drink with them, whatever it is that you do, you play pickleball, where you connect. And you can't always do that online. I think we managed to do that, but our bond had started to solidify more after we met in person. So the way I think about it is that we used AI to generate data and information on who your ICPs are. So fill in the gaps. So we do a lot of enrichment stuff on databases and refresh and update databases. That's one thing, or finding net new. Then once you've done that, you want to hold some kind of event, whether that's in person, it could be a meeting, it could be virtual. Then after that, you've had that event, there's an opportunity to invite into a community. And then you do the cycle again and again, and then you generate referrals through that. So it's a strategy that we use. It's worked really, really well to grow our community and grow our business. We've been fully bootstrapped until the start of this year. And it's just allowed us to connect with more people. And then you learn about people, like whatever you're selling. You're selling permanent placement, selling MSP, selling RPO, you're selling contract services. You'll know your buyer. And even if you're in-house, you want to build trust with that person that you're connecting with. Like my little sister's in AI as well. It's like she's head of people culture at DeepMind Google, right? So
everybody's reaching out to her right now.
Yeah, like we have these conversations a lot all the time as well because we're both in AI. But the interesting thing is that it's about that connection. I think about AI being there to help you perform better in real life. That's the purpose.
Yeah.
Not AI's for AI's sake, right? Like it's just really doesn't make much sense. How are you what else are you seeing from your side when it comes to the sales fee, especially in the executive search, because that sales cycle's a lot longer.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's taking things offline as much as possible, and I'm doing a lot of texting now. I'm building relationships. I mean, it's building relationships at the end of the day, and I think of what are the best relationships that I have that are outside of business. It's consistent communication where there's some sort of value going back and forth. So with my friends, we're talking about soccer. We're talking about sports. We're talking about music. We're talking about things that we care about. When it comes to business, it's I'm creating a relationship that's based on common interests, fun, but then also if I see an article, I'm sharing that. But I'm actually taking a lot more now to text. And then I'm also thinking about how am I spontaneously reaching out to people. So there's a couple people in my network who are really good at this, who like every few days I get text messages from them, like in the morning, encouraging me with things. And so I've started to take that technique because one thing that you mentioned, I don't know whether you mentioned it necessarily on I think we did touch upon this, but it's like this awareness and attention is just getting harder and harder and harder to get through traditional methods. And so I think text messages, phone calls, reaching out to people regularly, that's how I'm building these relationships, because that's how you build trust, right? So I'm not just having like a call with somebody and then thinking that's enough. It's just getting them into the ecosystem. Um,
And I want to caveat that as well, because I don't want people to think, because you used the word technique and then you used your friends. So I don't want people to think that, like, and maybe you are doing this, there's a technique to connect with your friends.
no,
Yeah,
that I don't have a strategy for building friendships.
Yeah.
But I'm taking learning from that.
But where I want to go with this, Joe, is I think it's like, do you really care? That's really important to people. If someone cares about that person, how they're actually doing, they ask it and they really mean it.
Yeah.
That makes a difference. And so when you're reaching out to someone with an offer, whether it's a role or an opportunity, and we've all done it, we've all recruited people, we've put them in a job that maybe they weren't quite ready for.
Yeah.
But you help them get that jump. And they're so thankful for it. And so if you really care and you really believe that you can help someone, that will shine through with your outreach.
Yeah.
Okay. And so whether it's with friends or it's trying to get new customers, I think it's respectful to do your research.
Yeah.
I think it's disrespectful. Like, people come into calls unprepared. People come into calls in situations where they don't know anything about someone. At Career Builder, we learn to respect the research. So that's a big part of using AI as well. Going into a meeting and an environment, knowing a lot more about a situation that your candidate or your client does. That's how you add value. So taking that time to be thoughtful.
Yeah, and Kelly mentioned here something too, like you can't carrot scale, which, I mean, that's part of it, right? Like, you know, as an executive recruiter, I don't need 1,000 clients. If I have 10 clients that I'm working with a year, I'm having a pretty good year. So, you know, it's like, no, now if I was doing high volume staffing, yeah, I might need to connect to thousands of candidates, right? Because it's kind of an ongoing. So you got to know like what market you're working on. But even then, if I'm working high volume, I might have 5 to 10 clients that I'm doubling down on working with, and every interaction with them matters. Everything that I'm doing matters. Every time I'm building value. So there's a lot of truth to that. And I think what happens when we think of sales, or when people think of sales, and I've been talking to a lot of like HR leaders about this who are thinking of going fractional with their own business and starting their own businesses. The biggest thing that slows them down is they still think that sales is the 120 cold calls a day. And I go back to, well, why were you doing those 120 phone calls a day? It's because you didn't know anyone. You had to do that to get to know people and get your word out. I think if you're sending out thousands of emails and email blast to people and you've been doing something for a decade, I would just question, like, how well do you know people you've worked with in the past? Like, I don't, you know, so it's, I don't know. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that, though. Maybe I'm wrong with that.
Yeah, look, so I think there's a business has two clear functions. It's to get customers,
yeah,
and keep them happy. That's it. When you do that well, when you keep customers happy, they will potentially tell other people. So you create a flywheel. Now, if you've been doing something for 10 years and people know you, they're going to spread the word.
Right.
So the question is, and some question is like, how good is your service? How good's your offer? But also, and this is hard to do, but like, do you talk about your wins in a way that doesn't seem like, hey, like we're always like talking about what we do, but we make it known what we do. And we found that difficult as we've evolved from kind of like permanent placement recruiting business also like an AI, because there's a lot of noise in there. But what we found is like, if we do really good work with our customers, like we're creating environments where they can meet their ICPs and they're actually getting value from it, the stories that we hear from it, they'll share with others. And then we get a lot more inbound. So we haven't actually made an outbound call once. And it's mainly been because of community and referrals.
Well, one thing I'd love to ask people in the chat, like, let me know, you know, if you're like doing active cold calls right now, just put cold calls or put CC in there, because I'd be super curious. Because I also think cold call, I don't even have anything against cold calls, but I think there's something in that.
It's changed and evolved as well, Joe. Like when you get a call on your phone now, there's like a lot of these blockers, right? So I don't know about cold calling, but I think warm calling is still valuable, right? I used to do a lot of cold calls, but I'd say a warm call is maybe you haven't spoken to someone in your network for a long time and you reach out. I used using our product the other day. I'm traveling to meetings in Northern California this week, and I had a meeting, I had another one, went onto our product, and I was like, oh sugar, I didn't realize that these staffing firms were in this location. Someone that I connected with, I just pressed the button, said, hey, like, I'm going to be in the area. They got back to me within 10 minutes. And so I hadn't spoken to them for about 6 to 12, maybe 12 months.
Yeah.
And so it's like an awareness of your network. That's another thing that I think we can do a lot better. And we started to try and do with our community is who is in your network and who's in your network's network, because then that will lead to referrals as well.
Yeah, and Andy said when you're starting off developing relationships, right, from ground zero, 99% of people use cold calling as a starting point. Do you think because this has come up a couple of times too with even just with candidates, right? And I think someone might have made a post recently which said it's like unacceptable. It's becoming unacceptable for a candidate to show up to an interview in the day of AI and like not be prepared. So obviously that's the same with a sales call, right? So how do you any advice for people on like just using AI to prepare for sales calls and like using AI in sales calls? Like how do you drive value using AI and like present that to people, or like do you have any kind of ways that you're looking at that?
Well, our first product was EQ Buddy that you were using, and it was really a research tool, ChatGPT for recruiting. And so what we would do is research who the leadership is.
Yeah.
We've tried to make that more concise with our ICP product, where it shows not only who the leadership is, but what news articles have come out with that company, what jobs they're hiring for right now, what locations they're in, how much revenue they do. And then that allows you to tailor your angle, your pitch to maybe what they care about. We've still started reading some of like different reports that are consolidated in one view. So you can just say, hey, I want to find out who all of the construction companies are in Southern California that focus specifically on architecture, design for a particular region. They'll build out that list, and it will give you an idea of competitors, because you want to know what your customers know, and then you want to know a bit more. So you want to know who their competitors are. You want to know what their talent needs are across the board, because maybe you miss out on one. Could be a role they might have. So many times people have called a role something, but it's something else.
Yeah.
And you might think that you're not relevant to support with that role, but you could be relevant to something else. So the semantics of it makes a difference as well. And so really researching leadership, news, any events that could be relevant to the industry, and then coming up with a way for you to connect with them. And think of it like 2 or 3 approaches. The first one might be you give them something. Second one might be that you give them something else. And the third one might be an ask. That's on the BD side.
Yeah.
Give, get.
Now, I know Ben had mentioned too agents, right? And agents is like the hot buzzword of 2025, agentic AI. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
You've had experience building agents, right? You've trained, programmed agents. When it comes to sales, what are some of the things that you're seeing like agents do well, and some of the things that agents are challenging? Because from my understanding, agents can be used, but they're not 100% there. What have you seen working like hands-on practically when it comes to AI agents?
Yeah, so I'll give a little definition of an agent from my standpoint, and it's a framework I create which is called OT. So an agent has 3 characteristics: O, T, and T. So the O is an objective. That is a job that the agent needs to get done. The T.
Give me an example of that, just so we have that.
Yeah, so you may have an agent that is responsible for generating proposals. Okay, your only job is to generate proposals. The T is the tasks. How are you going to do that? So first, you may need the context, and you say, okay, the agent needs to get the context from your transcript. It then needs to get the context of the product offerings that you have, and the context of the time. So you're going to take all of that information. So that's your task. So the objective is your job.
Yeah.
The second T is your task. And the third T is your tools. Do you have access to our database? Do you have access to external data as well? So agents will work really well when they're specific. And if they can do a specific task, well, then there's either a human in the loop that comes out and says, okay, that works, or it's approved, or it's not approved. or it goes to another agent. And it's where we start to chain agents together. So we built 18 different AI agents that done all different parts of the recruiting process, from enrichment, refreshing, sourcing, screening. And we were going to do scheduling. We didn't do that bit, but we were doing all across different parts, interviewing, resume scoring. But then once that first agent's finished, then what do you do with it? So think about it like a job description, the OTT, an objective in a job description that you create, the tasks, what that person needs to do or the agent needs to do, tools, what are they going to use to do it? So that's how I really break down agents. So you can think about things that you need to get done in your business. Right now, we've got a framework, which I might make public at some point, where it's like, can an agent do this? And there's 3 areas. It's either it's a person plus an agent with a co-pilot, or it's autonomous. And
do you see any trends with like what can just be done with agents, or like the types of tasks that can be done with agents versus the in the loop versus this autonomous that you're talking about? Like what are some of the trends there?
Big trend is if a job is created by computers, it's more likely that a computer can do it. So anything that relies on big information and big data can be agentic end to end. I'll see if I can. I'm going to share. I'll share a quick deck actually.
So could an agent then close it? Like, could you say, "Hey, I want you to close 10 sales for me today"? Like, it's probably just a stupid thing to ask, but like, could you ask it to do that? And like, would it possibly be able to do that? Because there's so much human interaction in there, you still need a human for that.
Well, is that the question that you'd ask, right? Is where does that happen in the workflow? So that's an objective. If you say you close 10 sales, okay, so what are the tasks to do that? Do you know every task that it takes to close 10 sales? And then what are the tools that you need to do that? Do you know all the tools? And then can it do that? Now, if you have all that information, it depends on what the sales are. If they're coming inbound and they're consumer-led sales,
like a resume guide or something like that, or like a downloadable printable PDF.
Yeah, but you'd have to work out exactly what the steps are. And if you don't know them, you can't program an agent.
How often are you running?
Like, here's a big difference, okay? So an AI agent will have task ownership, full responsibility to the assigned work, and it's really good at repetitive tasks. Complex decisions, it's limited. A co-pilot, moderate ownership, repetitive tasks, kind of basic, but complex decisions, it's strong because you're partnering with a human. So the agent is one part of it. It's like, if you can offshore it, you can make it agentic. That is the simplest way I can put it. If you could offshore a task, because you're going to give someone an objective, or offshore a job, sorry, you're going to give someone an objective, you're going to give them tasks and tools, and you're going to leave it, there's a high chance you can make it agentic.
What obviously you're working with lots of clients on this. So what are some of the challenges that you run into with people? Because I mean, my mind goes to how many people actually know the process that goes into the tasks that they're looking to get completed. Is that a problem that comes up a lot? And like, if so, how do you help people like map that out? Like, what's your process for that?
So so we have a pioneer program where we work with companies for 12 weeks. So it's 90 days.
Yeah.
And what we do is we build out the framework for them. So we'll say, okay, let's assess what you're trying to get done. We'll then pilot it with you. We train and integrate it into your systems, measure and refine, and then scale it. And it's a combination of services and products that we have, but also stuff that you might have that's off the shelf. So we really work with you on 12 weeks and then say, do you need a product and a tool, or do you need a solution? And a lot of the times, the best customers that we have they're not actually the ones that are like, hey, like they're super AI heavy, but they have a problem that they want to solve. And that's worked really, really well. The hardest part is kind of training and integration into your workflow.
So coming back to sales, what are some of those problems that you're seeing regularly that people want to solve when it comes to sales? Like, what are the biggest challenges right now that you're seeing? Hey, and that we've talked about some of this, right? Like trust, probably AI can't probably build just like a ton of trust. Like you're going to have to build the trust, right, with them. AI can assist you.
Well,
like,
let's not do that. Let's not jump the gun on that.
All right.
Remember that a person is training the model.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out how you bake it into your workflow. So if you send a follow-up email or the AI sends a follow-up email and it comes from your email, but it's in your voice, that can build trust over a period of time. So to go back to the problems that we're helping customers do whatever they wanted to do previously, but be AI powered. So they have an idea of what they're trying to get done. And the idea might be, I wish that I could follow up more effectively with my candidates in a personalized way. Okay, well, what do you want it to say? These are the emails that work. Then we can program an AI agent for you to take that task on, and then you can check it. But if you don't know what you're trying to do, that's when it becomes challenging. If it's like tech for tech's sake.
Yeah. I'd be curious for anyone out there, like, what are some of the problems that you are having, I guess, just in your own sales process right now?
Yeah.
Just like get those in there, because I'd just be curious if there's any that drop in there where you're like, okay, yeah, an agent could do that, or yeah, that'd be more co-pilot.
Yeah. So we're asking the audience, right?
Yeah.
I was going to
so
talk
Kelly
about...
just said identifying viable leads.
Okay. Yeah. We that's kind of like a big thing that we spent time on with our assistant product. We're going to do a release. So there's a couple of releases that we're going to have. One is a private community for business leaders that we're working with right now and helping them really just share insights and ways to leverage AI. So that's one thing outside of the community. And the other one is our ICP product, which we have a wait list for, which is identifying your ideal client profile. The biggest challenge that we found is that people were connecting with HR, but they want to connect with the hiring managers and HR potentially.
Yeah.
So they didn't know who was the hiring manager for each particular role. So we've started to help surface that information and then give you a talk track to connect with the hiring managers as well. And there's some like demos and things that we can share, but I don't want to make this a sales call. But if anyone's interested, reach out to me directly. Happy to share. And also, if you're in the community, send us a note or just connect with me on LinkedIn. But it's really about finding that ICP. I'll show a quick example without selling, but as an example, right? One of the things that we do is we help companies identify the number of roles, the amount of articles that they've got, things that are going on, and then the managers and executives within each of those particular roles, right? So then you can get an output that's going to be relevant to what you want, and you can like it or you can download it, and then it builds out your lists for you of very, very specific outreach, right? So if you had a particular manager in this particular area, you could click it, you have a credit, and then you'd be able to go through and see. And so it's really building out those specific areas. You might want to know executives in some scenarios, but then you also might want to know the managers in a particular location. So we're helping companies and individuals who are in recruiting space build that out in their niche so they can get very specific lists, right? Whether that's by industry or it's by company size or it's by location. And they can also do people searches as well as company searches as well. But this is something that we're going to be releasing soon, so it's not available now to the general public. But anybody who's interested in piloting this, feel free to reach out. I said I wasn't going to make it salesy, but it's in my nature. So,
I mean, it's sales in the age of AI. So I think
sales in the age of AI. All right.
Yeah, you're almost okay there. Okay, so Gavin said, so in an ideal world, I would like AI to be able to read my mind and vice versa, to give me information at my fingertips.
You should get the neuro chip in the back of your neck.
Yeah. And then, so let's say it would be nice to have a list at the end of the day with updates from companies for new product rollouts, funding, or just news to get context for convos. So, I mean, just obviously, I know like Garen's kind of joking with that, but I mean, I feel like you would be able to like, you know, would it be possible like to get updates or news like with an agent? Like I mean, that sounds like something an agent could do, or like kind of deliver that information to you.
Yeah, we've been working. That's what our ICP product does. I mean, if you look there's like latest news on the company, kind of funding, things that they're doing, updated real time. So not 3 months ago, but what happened a day ago. And then how can that help you with your talk track? And then starting to get into personalized messages and outreach. So again, it comes in a context. I wrote an article about this before, and we talked about it. It's like, it's not about prompting, it's about contexting, because context is king. If you have the right context, it will allow you to have a sharper message and a sharper outreach. A friend of mine, he runs all of Nike Jordan. He runs the whole global brand, like the whole business. And we were talking, and one of the things that he said to me was around the sharpness of your story, right? Like that's what a lot of the big brands have done. It's like, how do you have a story that's super sharp and connects with people? When you're sending an outreach message, how do you send that message super sharp and connects with people? You have to understand them. And if you understand them, then you can connect. And that's why our company's called EQ, because we believe that intuition, emotional intelligence, and understanding is actually the most important human skill. And a lot of the recruiters who are in on this call, they have that in abundance, right? And sometimes it's hard to switch to BD to do that. But take that skill and use that when you're outreaching. Don't be cheesy, but just have context, right? And reach out to people, something that someone wants.
Yeah, I love that. And I think someone else mentioned, like having a list, like for example, of companies that, have recently gotten funded, right? Or, which I don't think that's the point, but it's having that context and going, okay, I know based on the clients I'm working with, I'm going to use that one as the example, but I know that every single time a company in fintech receives another round of funding, they're going to do hiring. So if there's things about your industry that and then you can deduce from the news and go, okay, I just read in the news that your company's doing this. So based on the clients I've worked with that have done this in the past, they needed to hire this skill set. If you reach out to them and say, read that you're doing this, now I know you're going to be doing a round of hiring from this because this is what's happened with the 10 past clients I've worked with. That's context versus, I just some kind of cold reach out saying, hey, I've solved recruiting for you.
Yeah. Well, look, yeah, so it's all about the context. So funding's one thing. You've got loads of companies doing that. We have that in our product now, so you can go and see who's been funding. That's for tech firms, right? Not everyone's getting funded every week. Contracts, legislation, laws that are being passed, local senators, information all around, and then collecting that into one view, and then having something thoughtful and interesting to approach your contact with. The biggest feedback we got from our products, we've got millions and millions and millions of data points, right? The biggest feedback we got as we were building the product, and it's like, look, we don't need millions of people. We just need 5 or 6 of the real top quality ones. And we knew that in recruiting. So we try and provide a curated, precise list of people that you can connect with. So you've got a better chance of engaging with them.
I love that. Well, look, I know we're usually our sessions are around an hour and a half, right around that time, or less than that, about 45.
Well, they're like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah. We usually go pretty short. So I want to open it up to, if there are any specific questions right now, obviously you got us on the line, so happy to answer any specific questions. But if not, I think, I think if this conversation, if the recruiting podcast is of interest, I would definitely go, join our community, connect with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to continue this conversation too, even if it's one-on-one, if there's specific things that you're looking for, if that works.
Absolutely. Well, look, appreciate everyone that's joined today. And to Joel's point, and as you mentioned right at the start of the conversation, there's a lot of opportunity to build out your brand and build awareness and connect with people through social channels still. I suppose my main message as well is to be as precise as possible. If you can be precise with context and give people a reason to connect with you, I'm sure that they'll reach out. And if anybody wants to connect with me directly, as Joel mentioned, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I can drop a link in the chat as well to our community again. I think you've done that already, right, Joel?
Yeah, yes, we have like the LinkedIn, Marcus's LinkedIn on there, my LinkedIn on there. And then the Substack, that's the community. So in the Substack, it's like a blend of articles, information around AI. And then we have our AI and recruiting podcast. That's like the central hub spot for it. And so most of the podcast is Marcus and myself, but then we'll get guests in as well. So I would encourage anyone out there, like if you're an expert with AI, if this is some area that you're really thriving in, get a hold of us so we can feature you on the podcast. And we drop those every week as well. But that kind of like hub for that is on the Substack. So it's the place that you want to join.
And we are also as well, and I think that's a good point, actually, partners, right? So at EQ, we partner with a lot of companies and then also individuals that are in our space. Maybe you're a solopreneur, maybe you've got a network that you're looking to leverage. Also, you want to learn a bit more about AI. So reach out if there are any partnership ideas or ways that you think that we should be collaborating. We've got a good following. We spend a lot of time building AI, and it's now about putting the power of AI into the hands of people in our industry, because Joel and I have grown up in this industry, not just kind of like random people from in tech. Even though I've got a London accent, I live in the US. So
England's like the home of recruiting, though.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
the home of recruiting.
I pretty much it's like anytime I have people reach out to me from LinkedIn and I talk to them, the amount of English accents I hear. So and I'm from England as well, so people just don't even know that. But
yeah, cool.
But I want to give a special shout out to as well to Ben for hosting today. I know man, Ben just puts out so much great content, podcast wise, on social media. Super humble guy. So Ben, we appreciate you, man. We're glad we were able to help and participate, and appreciate all of you guys out there as well. The chat is popping.
Yeah, shout out to the popping, like the chat, right? Like I feel like we need to copy and paste this, and this is like an article itself. Look at this chat.
Get an agent. You need to get an agent to summarize each comment, put it all together. That's what we need.
Well, I'm not a real person. This was an agentic call, but
all right, guys. Appreciate all of you. Ben, thanks so much, and we will we'll see you guys soon.
See you soon,
you guys.
Cheers.
If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in your network, your team, your boss, or that recruiter still stuck in 2015. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss what's next in hiring and AI. Until next time.